Hey there, it's Bailey Richert, business coach for beginning and budding infopreneurs, and you're listening to the 360 Entrepreneur with Jan Ilunga.
This is episode 185, and today we talk about how to plan, create, and launch an online course. Here we go.
Welcome to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast, the show for entrepreneurs and small business owners who dream big and want to do bigger. Join some of the world's top entrepreneurs, internet marketers, and best-selling authors as they share their inspiring stories, their struggles, and give actionable tips that will help you build, grow, and promote your online business. Here's your host, Yanni Lunga.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to episode 185. And this one is all about creating info products and more specifically, online courses. Today we're joined by Bailey Richert, who is an expert at planning, creating, and launching online courses. And those are exactly the things this episode focuses on. So whether you are planning an online course, you have started the creation of the course, or it is ready to go and you're thinking about the launch, then today's episode is definitely for you. The show notes can be found over at yanilunga.com/episode 185. Okay, time to get started. Here is the interview with Bailey Richert from baileyrichert.com. Today, we are joined by an entrepreneur, speaker, and business coach to both beginning and budding infopreneurs. And she helps others really realize that it is possible to achieve the life you truly desire if you are ready to put in the effort to create the financial means you need to support that life. She's been featured on places like the Huffington Post, TEDx, Side Hustle Nation, and she is here with us. I'm so pumped to welcome on the show, Bailey Richert. Bailey, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. And there is one question that I think I have to ask you, because this question kind of has to do with something that I think it's a bit of a keyword for what you do, which is the term infopreneur. So Bailey, if there is somebody who's joining us and he or she has no idea what infopreneur means, what an infopreneur is, could you take a moment to give us your definition of infopreneur?
Absolutely. Well, infopreneur is an amalgamation of information and entrepreneurship. And it's essentially a person who monetizes their life experience and knowledge by creating and selling informational products. So those could be things like ebooks and online courses, virtual summits, keynote presentations, workshops, retreats, anything where you are teaching a skill or some sort of content to somebody else.
Love it. Thank you so much. I wanted to make sure that I'd ask you that question because I know that the term infopreneur is going to pop up often during our conversation. So it was good to get a moment and ask you about the definition of who is an infopreneur. So we are clear on that. The next question I want to ask you is something that I was looking at your site when I was preparing for the interview, and I saw that one of the things, and I mentioned even that during the introduction, something you do is to really help people understand how to create the financial means they need to support their ideal lifestyle. So one of the things you discuss on your blog, on your YouTube channel as well, is how to turn knowledge and experience into income. So do you have any advice on how we can do that? And you kind of touched a little bit on that already with your definition of infopreneur.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I mentioned, there's lots of different revenue streams that a person could choose from if they want to monetize their life experience. I think that what it boils down to is recognizing that you have experience in something and you have passion for something, and then evaluating what is the best way for you to communicate that knowledge to somebody else. In some cases, that might be through writing in a book. These days, video courses, online programs are becoming incredibly popular because I think that it encourages people to finish all of the content. You might sit down with a book that's 100 pages. You might not get all the way through till the end, but whenever you're watching a video course, it's a lot more engaging. You can show visuals, which might be able to teach the content a little bit better. But then there's other ways as well, through coaching or maybe keynote speaking. And I think that each one of those revenue streams, in some cases might not be good for every niche. You have to ultimately figure out the one that's that's right for you. Online courses, like I said, are really popular right now, but even then, there's some opportunities in there for a variety of media. You can have some PDF downloads and checklists. You can have some screencasting videos where you're showing somebody what you're doing on your screen with a certain technology. You can do a talking head video, which is a video of yourself giving a lecture. You can include interviews. So there's many different ways that you can communicate and teach the concepts that you want to. And I think that that's a really key part of being successful as an infopreneur, is recognizing how your audience is best going to understand this material.
I love it. I love it because, Bailey, you talked about, obviously answering the question, you talked about different ways we can turn knowledge and experience into actual income. And you mentioned it can be video courses, you mentioned virtual summits, and you said it is about understanding the type of content that resonates the most with our audience, and obviously also something that not only we have experience with, but that we're also passionate about talking. Because if we have to create an entire course on a topic that we hate, I think that by the end of the course, people are kind of gonna get a feeling of the fact that, yeah, Jan or Bailey or whoever wasn't really into this specific topic. And obviously, as you said, there are info products that work better for certain niches. And I know that you have done, or you have kind of have experience with almost any of these. I mean, you have online courses. I remember when we exchanged messages on LinkedIn, you said about your virtual summit. So you have quite many experience with quite many of these. And a question I think I really should ask you about when it comes to courses is to take a moment and tell us what you consider are the common mistakes infopreneurs make when it comes to creating and launching their, let's talk about maybe online courses. Are some trends that you've seen that are some big no-nos when it comes to this?
Oh, absolutely. I've been creating online courses for years, and so much of what I've learned has been through trial and error. So these mistakes that I'm about to mention have been things that I have done myself, and I can tell you exactly why they were mistakes and they don't work. The first thing that I would say is that people who are creating online courses don't often pre-sell their course, and they should. See, the way that most people go about creating a course or any info product is that they sit by themselves in their office and they think, I have an idea and I think this idea is great. Right. And they don't take any time to go to their potential audience of customers and say, what do you think? Do you agree that this product is great? And would you actually be willing to pay for it? And how much? And what should this product include? They never get that feedback. They run full steam ahead into creating their product. And what they get obsessed with is the creation of the product and the content creation. So recording the videos, writing the book or the checklist, the PDFs, the things that go into the course, and they put absolutely no time into the marketing of the product, which is ultimately what is going to sell that product. So I encourage everyone that's making an online course to do something called pre-selling, which flips the traditional process of creating a course on its head. So instead of coming up with an idea, creating the course, and then going out and marketing and selling it, you come up with your course idea after having talked to your audience, and then you put together a sales page and you actually pre-sell enrollments to your program to see whether or not your audience is really willing to put their money where their mouth is and to say, yes, this is a product we actually want. And after a certain number of weeks pre-selling, you reach a certain threshold where you determine for yourself, yes, I am willing to create this course now because I have seen that people actually want this product. It has made money. And you put in the time and effort into creating the content, which you release at a later date. So one of the biggest mistakes is that people don't pre-sell their course, and they definitely should.
Bailey, thank you so much. I think you're right on the money, and I really like the fact that you talked about validation with the true pre-selling, but not asking our friends, our relatives, but asking those who may be potential customers, potential students. And what I like about that is by reaching out to them, obviously you're going to see who's inclined to buy or not, but also you're going to see what the actual pain points are. Maybe people are going to ask you, okay, so is your course is going to be, I don't know, about blogging. So are you also going to talk about traffic and lead generation, or only about content creation? So I think that tapping into our community is really an opportunity for getting kind of shaping better the idea of the course we may already have. And you said it's also a smart way to really see if our community is interested in the type of info product we want to create. And if so, we know that once it's creation time, we won't be wasting any of our time, because you said traditionally we tend to have an eureka moment, aha moment. We spend days, weeks, months, whatever to create a course, and then we put it out there, and our community may be like, okay, we don't really care about that. So that's great. And is there something else, Bailey, maybe you want to share when it comes to mistakes?
Sure, absolutely. There's so many that I've made over time.
Love it.
I think that one of them you sort of touched upon there was that you need to get feedback from your community members about exactly what they want in the course. And one of the mistakes that I see time and time again is that course creators will make their course way too broad, trying to cover far too many topics. And there's a lot of psychological reasons that I actually think that we do this. As infopreneurs and as business owners, we want to provide as much value to our customers as possible. It comes from a good place. We want to educate them about everything that we know. You know, if we feel like we can take money from somebody, we have to give them every bit of our knowledge. We have to just empty our brains into these courses. But the reality is that if you create an online course that covers way too many topics, it's going to be far too overwhelming for your students. And what you need to do instead is really focus your course and set concrete boundaries and say, in this course, we're going to cover topics X, Y, Z, but not this other thing. We're not going to cover W. That is in another program. It's not going to be covered here. And what you're doing is you're providing focus to the course. You're providing clear boundaries. You're being really clear about what students will get and what they will not get. So you're going to get happier students. You're going to get the right clients enrolling. And ultimately, you'll be able to pinpoint the objective that you are going to be teaching your students in this course better, which is better for enrolling the ideal client into these courses and also better for your marketing as well. So the mistake there is that people they make their courses far too broad and try to include far too much material in a course.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's something that comes from a good place, but again, it's something that in the long run doesn't really work. And when it comes, so up until now, we've touched on a couple of launch mistakes, and this last one was kind of had to do with the content. Do you have, Bailey, any advice for the putting together what we could call the table of content for an actual course? So you said, for example, we should try to be as specific as possible and be able to say exactly what the course is about, what the course isn't about, who the course is for and who isn't for. So do you have any advice if there is somebody with you and I who's maybe working on a course, perhaps they've already gotten some sort of validation from their community, there is interest?
Sure, absolutely. That's a great question. And I think that the answer lies in one word: framework. So you'll notice in all of my online courses, I'm a former engineer, so I tend to favor numbers. So in my Infopreneur Institute course, I teach a 6-step process for launching an infopreneur business from scratch. In my High Value Course Academy program, I teach a 20-step process for launching your own online course in 8 weeks. In Virtual Summit School, it's a 3-phase process. So I prefer the numbers, but the point is that a framework basically is a structure for how you're going to teach your course materials in a very orderly fashion. And so I recommend either coming up with a certain number of steps in a process, so 6-step process, 10-step process. Some people prefer to use words and to make it an acronym. So, they might use a 4 or 5 letter word and every letter represents a step. Some people use diagrams like a 5-pointed star or a pyramid. Think about the food pyramid, for example. It's a diagram for explaining a concept of content for, conveying those particular key concepts. And so I think that if you want to come up with an effective table of contents, if you want to come up with an effective structure for how you're going to teach the content and convey it to your students, you really can't go wrong with coming up with a framework for it.
Love it. So, I mean, you heard it. there are different ways you can go about it, but the point is that you have to have some kind of system, a framework, a scheme, a pyramid, whatever you want to call it, that you follow. And Bailey mentioned a couple of courses, a couple of resources, and like in every episode, you're going to find the link to everything Bailey and I are talking about, including those, obviously, in the show notes. And Bailey, I want to ask you, if we go back to the launch part of an info product, of an online course. So you talked about the fact that pre-selling is often underutilized. And you had an article where you shared some tips for successfully launching an online course. So I'll link to that as well in the show notes. But could you share a couple of those strategies here with us when it comes to the launch of an online course?
Absolutely. Like I said, since I take advantage of the concept of pre-selling, whenever I launch an online course, that to me means that I am kicking off my pre-selling period. So that means that I am making my course public to the world. I'm saying, hey, this is available now. You can enroll in this. You can give me money for this. And so since we are pre-selling, we generally want to give people an incentive to sign up early. And so I encourage you to do pre-sell pricing. So to offer some sort of discount on your course during that pre-sale period. It's going to be a limited time offer that you can introduce to your potential customers and to encourage them to enroll. I also encourage you to consider giving different pricing options. Pricing plans, for example. For all of my courses, what I do is generally 3 tiers of pricing. I have the lower tier, which is the flex payment plan, which is, 3 or 4 monthly payments of so much, maybe 97, less than 100. Then I have the best value plan where people will get a small discount if they pay for the whole course up front. And then I offer a higher tier plan, a support plan, which usually means that I incorporate some individual VIP coaching with the program for a higher price point. So by offering those different tiers, you are giving people the flexibility that they need with their own income to be able to enroll in your program. And so that's one of the things that I would recommend about launching your course as well. Another thing that you can do, and I really do encourage you to do this, is partner up with influencers in your niche that you can not just make affiliates of your course, but to actually get them involved in the content creation of your course. As an influencer myself, I really hate it whenever people come to me and they say, I have this product, will you promote? Well, they do. I'm not associated with that product whatsoever. But if somebody comes to me and says, I have this idea for a course I've been working on. I would love to interview you for it. Could you help me with this part of the content because you're such an expert in it? It would be such a value to my students. And if you'd like to promote as an affiliate, here's a partnership that we could do. So I recommend that you bring in people to help you promote, but take it one step further. Get those people involved in the content. Leverage their expertise and knowledge to make your course even better. Those are a few of my tips for launching.
Thank you so much, Bailey. So you mentioned different incentives for people to sign up early for the pre-sale period. You talked about different pricing levels. And your last point, getting influencers involved, I really like it because you said it. I mean, oftentimes people just reach out to influencers simply for the quote unquote exposure or piggybacking on their audience. But you said that it's important to get the person involved with the content creation part of the process. And I think it's also very critical because then if I were to reach out to you, Bailey, and ask you to be part of what I'm doing, I interview you. If then I ask you to promote it, you're going to have a better idea of what the product is about, for which part of your community is it for, who maybe it isn't for. So I think that what you said makes perfect sense. And as I said, you wrote an article about these things. So definitely I'll link to that in the show notes. And if you were to kind of take a magnifying glass, Bailey, on a typical online course launch of yours looks like, could you tell us what are some of the phases? I mean, you already touched on the first phase, the validation phase, and then the pre-sale phase.
Sure. So basically what I do is after I go to my audience, like you said, and I ask them, what is it that you're looking for in a course like this? This is my idea. Help me refine it. And I get some feedback and some information from them. Then what I will do is I will create the sales page for that course. I use ClickFunnels in order to run my entire business, including my sales funnels and my online courses. And so I will go and create an actual sales page and I will take it to my audience and I will see, are people buying this? Are they interested in it? What is the feedback there? And that kicks off the pre-sale period for the course. Now, the pre-sale period is actually going to last several months. For me, it can last anywhere from 2 to 3 months. And the reason for that is that I am trying to get as many signups as I possibly can in order to determine whether or not I should move forward with creating the content. And so I will set a particular deadline for myself, and I'll say, okay, after 6 weeks or 8 weeks, if I don't have this many signups, it's not worth it for me to pursue the course. There's some disconnect that's going on here. I need to talk to my audience and I need to see why they're not signing up. What is the problem? Is the pricing the problem? Is the content the problem? And if that is the case and I make a decision that I'm not going to move forward with that program, then I take it back to the drawing board and basically start all over. I go back and I talk to my audience and find out what that problem was. But if I do reach my financial goals, my enrollment goals for that program, then what I will do is by that deadline, I'll start creating my content. I'll actually start recording and working on all of the content for the course while I'm still pre-selling. There's no reason to not sell while I'm still creating the content. Right. And there's going to be a date, which I call my go live date, which is set in the future for all of the students who have pre-enrolled. They will get access to all of their materials at that time. And that is a few more weeks out in the future. So this whole process can actually take 4 to 5 to 6 months, depending on how big of a push you want to do during your pre-sale period, depending on how many students you are hoping to enroll. And I'll give you an example. My virtual summit school program, I had the idea for back in August, several months ago, and it's not going live until December. And so it's almost a full half year in order for this program to really get off the ground the first time. Now, when I quote unquote launch this course in the future, it's an evergreen course. The cart is always going to be open. But as a course creator, you can relaunch your course by revamping it, adding new bonuses, things like that. When I do that in the future, it will not take me 6 months because I will have already created all the content. I don't need to pre-sell the way that I did the first time. But when you're introducing a course to the world for the first time, it really takes a long time, and people definitely underestimate that. They always try to cut it short and just hurry to get that course out there. And there's no reason to if you haven't made the sales.
Yeah, well, thank you, Bailey. I mean, you heard it. Bailey shared with us really what it is a step-by-step process that she uses, and it's something that you could definitely write down and try to follow for your own business. And Bailey, there is something you touched on. I mean, you mentioned ClickFunnels, so I'll link to that as well in the show notes, but there is something you touched on that I think it's so important. And that's communicating with our community. And obviously, not only when is pre-selling time, but it's something that we should do on a regular basis, right?
Oh, absolutely. I started my Facebook group, the Infopreneur Community, specifically for this reason. Email marketing is incredibly effective, but I felt that I wasn't getting to engage with people on my email list and in my community and my audience the way that I wanted to. And when sometimes you send out a mass email to people, even if you're specifically requesting responses, if you're saying, I really want feedback, will you please give it to me? People know that it's an email that was sent to thousands of people. They don't feel like you're speaking directly to them. They don't respond. But when you're engaging in my Facebook group with hundreds of people and I make a post, people are more likely, as they're scrolling through their newsfeed to see it and share knowledge with me. And so I'm a huge fan of Facebook groups and just online communities in general. You need to find ways that you can effectively communicate with your community and your audience if you really want to hear back from them and get that kind of feedback.
To add to what you just said, Bailey, about Facebook groups, it's also great that we can leverage not only text, but if we think, for example, about Facebook Live, nowadays it's so easy to really strengthen the human connection through video. I mean, we only need an internet connection and a smartphone, and we're good to go with Facebook Live, right?
Absolutely. In fact, there's a program I just learned about the other day and just used for the first time this week called BeLive.tv.
Yeah, I saw you. Yeah.
It's in beta phase right now, but it actually allows you to stream Facebook Live from your desktop, and you can do it with 2 people. It's mind blowing. So you definitely want to check out that resource if you're into Facebook Live.
Thank you so much, Bailey. You're really dropping value bombs left and right here on the show. And I know that somebody may be, okay, Jan, Bailey, you have talked about the content creation part of an online course. You touched on the different phases. Bailey shared some advice for launching the course, but what about the tools? Well, I know, Bailey, that you have on your site, you have a toolkit where people can find the list of resources any infopreneur needs, right?
Yes, absolutely. If you just go to BaileyRichert.com, then you can sign up for a free Infopreneur Toolkit, which includes resources like an ebook, a flowchart, a resource list, and it's going to tell you about a whole bunch of different tools that you can use to run your infopreneur business, many of which I use for my info products, including my online courses.
Love it. So really no excuses not to get started. Maybe you're just starting out. You want to become an infopreneur and you're here with Bailey and I. If that's you, really no excuses not to get started. And Bailey, when you talked about the pre-launch phase of an online course, you mentioned a lower price point as an incentive for people to join. When you talked about the different price levels, you mentioned something like a VIP package or things like that. Are there other bonuses you think infopreneurs can easily create and add to the online courses they share with the world?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I firmly believe is that if you're going to create an online course, you should create what I call a high value online course. Take it from somebody who got into the online course game early and did it wrong by pricing low for a very long time. I thought, hey, if I price my course at $30, people are going to sign up because it's great, amazing content at a really low price. But that, believe it or not, that's actually not true. It's counterintuitive to how people perceive products.
Mm-hmm.
When you offer a significant amount of value and you price appropriately to that value, people are going to respond better to that price and to the value in your course. And one of the ways that we can add value to our courses is not just by having amazing content, but by adding additional bonuses that we specifically label as bonuses on our sales page so that people know, they recognize, it's right in front of their faces how much value is involved in this program that they're getting for such, an amazing price. Mm-hmm. So basically, the best kind of bonus that you can give somebody is a bonus which helps them to achieve whatever it is that they're trying to do in the course faster, better, easier. So it should be not related to the core course content. So if it's something that someone needs to learn in order to really accomplish the goal, that should be core course content. That's not a bonus. A bonus is something additional that you provide, which adds value. So these could be things like worksheets, checklists, templates, or ebooks, something that's downloadable that helps them actually work through the processes that you're teaching in the course faster. But it could also be additional video content. So let's say you have your framework for your course. Maybe it's a 6-step process, and there's something else you feel that you want to teach. It's outside of the boundaries of that framework, but you think it would be really beneficial for your students to know. You could add that video content as a bonus. Mm-hmm. You can bring in those influencers we talked about to do interviews with you, and that could be considered a bonus. You could reach out to companies that have hardware and software that people need, those tools that they need to accomplish the goal that you're teaching in the course. Maybe, for example, you're teaching how to use a particular piece of software. You could reach out to that software company and say, would you be interested in giving me some coupons for people who are enrolling in this program so they can get a discount? And of course, one of the things that I love to add as a bonus is coaching, whether that's VIP one-on-one coaching or whether you put together a group coaching program for people that enroll. Coaching has such high value, and people really appreciate that as a bonus because they're getting that one-on-one attention that they really need to achieve the goal that you set forth in the course. So those are a couple of bonuses that you can add for value.
Great. Thank you so much, Bailey. So you heard it. First of all, when it comes to the pricing, keep what Bailey just shared with us in mind. It's not about pricing it low. It's about really the value. And when it comes to bonuses, think about how you can help people get there faster, and think outside of the box, really. As Bailey said, think about companies or softwares, people who may be interested in collaborating, and obviously they should be related to some extent to your online course. And Bailey, we have covered so much ground, really. We've mentioned different articles you've written, LinkedIn. We talked about your Facebook group, Infopreneur community. We talked about the toolkit you have available. And to wrap up this episode, I have 2 questions for you. The first one is to tell everybody a little bit more about your upcoming virtual summit school, which launches at the beginning of December. So can you take a moment to tell us what Virtual Summit School is about?
Thank you for asking. Yes,
My
Virtual
pleasure.
Summit School is a program that I am super excited about. This past summer, I launched something called the Infopreneur Summit, and it was a huge success for my business, which helped me grow my email list, my relationships with influencers, my revenue, and so much more. And since then, I've really been turned on to the power of virtual summits for your business. And I firmly believe that they're not just for established business owners, but they're for beginning business owners as well.
Right.
It's a really great way to launch you to a new level. And so I decided to create a program called Virtual Summit School, which teaches you how to launch your own virtual summit from scratch in 90 days. So it follows a 3-month, 3-phase process. Basically, the first month is all about planning for your virtual summit. The second month is all about creating and putting your systems and sales funnel together. And then the third month is all about promoting, launching, and actually executing that summit. And this program is a self-paced video-based program, but it includes a ton of additional resources like email templates, video scripts, a 90-day launch plan workbook, and a whole bunch of other stuff that's really, it's what one of my friends called paint by number simple. So if you are interested in doing a virtual summit, but you don't even know where to start, this program covers literally everything. You don't need to know anything whatsoever. Tech tutorials, lectures, and everything. We're currently in pre-sale mode, and we will be going live on December 5th. So you can check that out at virtualsummitschool.com.
Love it. Thank you so much, Bailey. And obviously, as somebody who also has experienced the power of virtual summits as both the host and the speaker, you and I are both part of Nicole Holland's Business Builders Rockstar Summit. You said you had your Infopreneur Summit. I had the Podcast Success Summit, and you said it. Summits can really be a business-changing experience, and you are cooking the Virtual Summit School. So you heard it. You can sign up for it right now, pre-sale mode, and the doors are going to open officially toward the beginning of December. So make sure to check out the show notes page and you find the link also to that. And Bailey, to wrap it up, I want to ask if somebody would like to connect with you, or maybe they have a question or anything like that, what would you say is the fastest way to do that?
Absolutely. Well, I answer every single email I get. You can always contact me at contact@baileyrichert.com, or you can just go to my website, baileyrichert.com. There's a contact form on the website. You can send a message through the site. But on my website, there is links to all of my free stuff, my courses, resources. That's really my major hub online. So definitely check me out at baileyrichert.com.
Perfect. So you heard it. There is the email address that you find in the show notes. There is the contact page. And there is also, as Bailey said, her online hub, as well as the Facebook group Infopreneur community. So many different ways to connect with and learn from Bailey Richert. Bailey, thank you so much for taking the time and being here and for telling us more about the world of infopreneurship and for sharing your advice for coming up with content, pre-launching and successfully launching online courses. I'm really am grateful.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
And we are back. Bailey, thank you. It was such a fun and interesting conversation. Thank you for all the tips you shared here with us. You heard it throughout the interview. Bailey shared a few different resources. We mentioned her site, some of the articles she has written, and so forth. The best way to find all the links, everything we have talked about, is the show notes page, of course. And the link for today is yanilunga.com/episode 185. The topic of today's episode was online courses, but as you heard, Bailey is working on the Virtual Summit School. So if Virtual Summits is something you're interested in, then definitely look for that in the show notes page. This is it for today. This is it for this week. Next week, we're going to talk about how you can engineer your celebrity status to attract more clients. Sounds interesting? Great. Make sure to come back next Wednesday.
Thank you for listening to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast. For more tips and tools, head over to www.yanilunga.com.